Welcome back to the Foundation. This is Swaytoven, and this is something that I wish that I understood when I first got into making beats. Is because when you start making beats better, you're gonna be able to want to like listen to your things louder, right? You want to be able to turn it up, and some people can't turn their stuff up, right? Because it just starts clipping. Okay, and basically, instead of me talking about it in maybe in more confusing ways, because I'm not a professional, I'll let that be known first. But I have been trying to just do this for like about I've been working on music for 2 years. This is the third year now, 2 full years. But it's just like I want to just say okay, like peaks. Sorry, I said the clipping, right? We're gonna just focus on like the peaks, right? It's because this is basically what that is like when you do turn your things up in the car or just anything that's louder, maybe you can't even hear it in the first place, right? That could be a problem, and that's actually something that we see right here on our screen, where we have a smaller waveform and a larger waveform. Um, Maybe the peaks are too loud, so it's just like most likely maybe when you have your kick and 808 play at the same time, that's when the whole car rattles. Or if the 808's too subby, it'll just blur out the rest of the melody. You can't hear anything. All right, that's a problem. There's problems I ran into, so it's just like I'm not a professional, so I can explain this in a way that hopefully is like easy that other people can understand it, right? Because ultimately it's like about creating headroom, you know. But I hate when people talk about headroom. Even if I was to watch a video about headroom right now, I just be like, oh man, am I getting hit in the room? No, I'm not, right? So it makes things a little bit more difficult here. You feel me? It's not chilling like it should be, right? So it's just like, whereas like gain staging and headroom and volume is very important because you do want to be able to turn your stuff up. Uh, there are things that you can do ahead of time, and volume and gain staging is one of those. But just controlling your peaks, I guess, and I think you can do it easily because it's something that'll happen early on, and like the mixing stage is because you could, and if you understand like the peaks, right, the transients is basically what it is. It's just like you could just find something in your browser of like your instruments and find, see right there, that doesn't have a short transient, that has a little bit of something at the end of it, that has a short transient. So it's just like that has like a peak, and the peak doesn't last for that long. No peak lasts for that long, but it's just like it cuts off, right? And when you start understanding that, you can just listen out for that, and then you can understand um, what could quite possibly be like a crisp, clean, tight, punchy beat, opposed to something that just has like a lot of tails at the end of the transients, and it's just like I guess it eventually just sounds muddy. Because like I'm also saying this because that's gonna help me also like be thinking about it too as I go forward into like making music basically. But if I'm already not sounding confusing. So the thing is that like a professional person will start talking about this stuff like difficult. I ain't even gonna lie. So I'm gonna try to make it easy. Because it's just like where I've been watching things about how people are controlling what I'm talking about in the master channel, which is over here, right? And you can see some of the things that I have to like see if I can get into it. I don't have anything like that in the regular channels. The reason why is because the CPU would probably not be able to handle it, and that's important for people listening, is because you could probably add a lot of things individually in these channels to control these peaks and transients before you get to the master, right? You can group them all together too. That's something that I do, right? So I do have like some buses with some things and like that in certain songs, but it's just like, um, you know, it's hard to try to mix it all up when it goes to the master. You feel me? If that makes any sense. And you probably heard that before. Maybe if you've watched the video, you've heard someone talk about how it all starts at the source, because when you do send it to the master and it's not mixed well enough, they might send it back or have you change something. So it's just like I've talked a lot, right? I just wish that I understood like peaks and transients more, and maybe how to control them better in order to get like a more clean sound if I would desire a more clean sound basically. But there are ways to control it, and it's just like, well, what sounds do you want to actually be controlled in terms of like the peaks and the transients and stuff like that. And I just kind of talked about like claps and snares. That's percussions, right? There's also melodies. Okay. um but what plugins would you use? Is because honestly, when I've watched videos of people talking about this stuff, they've made it look confusing and sound confusing when they started straight up talking about compression. And I'm just like, all right, dude, like what? And it's not a hard concept, but it also might take a while and also more ear training. So to understand how compression works. But honestly, the easier the visual guide is to understand how compression works, the easier like you can learn compression. I'm not gonna lie. You have to hear it out, right? But if you could see how the visual guide, because like all like visually, technically it'll all be the same except for like the micro level of compression things. And I know I just talked about strength to compression, but that's a way to control peaks. But it's just like ultimately, it's just like it's just, even though it's sound, you can still visually learn it. But it's easier to do it at the same time. Just trust me, right? If you don't know anything about compression, just there's some visual guide about compression out there. Just look it up on YouTube or Google. Trust me, it's out there. And I just seen one the other day, and I'm like, even though I know compression now, it still makes it easier. The thing about compression and what makes it confusing is that a lot of compressors act differently. So that's something that I wish I knew earlier, is because some compressors are just faster than others. They're not all going to work the same, right? Some compressors have different algorithms, which, like, when I said they control the peaks, right? They control the peaks differently. So it's just like, that's something that I wish I understood. And that's still something that I'm going to have to understand going on forward, is because who's reading these manuals, bro? I promise you. I'm not reading these manuals for these compressors. I almost don't care that much, but I okay do. Even though it's not like I have an actual real compressor in front of me. It's all on the computer, But still, regardless, it's kind of one of those things that I wish I understood. But when you do understand it, it's just like, and how it works with the peaks and the transients, you don't even need more of a visual guide. You just can understand, like, how fast it'll work, and more so use your ear, and how fast, and like it should be released, the compression, right? And I'm probably being so confusing right now, but we're still technically talking about controlling peaks. I know you haven't even heard what I had to play. Here's the song. It's whatever. It sounds better loud in the van. I said the van because I work for Scamazon. But oh man, there's no way no one's listening to this. I'm probably so confusing right now, but yeah. Actually, this is actually kind of nice, is because it's just like I have 3 different versions of this, and I have like the MIDI version, you see, and I have the first version that was not loud, but this version had this main volume turned all the way up as we have here, but this version has this volume turned to regular level. But what happened was I manipulated certain things with limiting and clipping and multi-band compression, all right, to get a louder master, to get, all right, for that waveform to be louder without there being any distortion, okay? Because it's just like distortion, and there's still gonna be distortion. Or I think the left was negative 12, which is standard for like streaming services, and it was still fluctuating, which let me know that to fix that, I might maybe want to bring up. You see these peaks where the highest peaks are? I know you guys aren't stupid, so you guys can clearly see where the highest peaks are. I might want to bring up these darker orange parts, right, to match these peaks. You know what I'm saying? Or bring the peaks down and bring everything up, But then when you understand compression, you're like, oh, well, maybe that'll squash dynamics, blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I do care enough because I've retained the knowledge. But you know what I'm saying? Let me see. Just where I would use compressors to control the peaks at, right, would be like on melody buses. And first of all, that's important, right? Is because when you think about peaks and stuff like that and compressing things, it's like you would you're gonna be like, oh, okay, it's all gonna be on drums and percussions and stuff like that, which I said I was just about to talk about. But like melodies don't really have peaks, you know what I mean? Yet people still compress them together to glue, right? So it's just like that almost has a different type of vibe to it. That sounds so unprofessional, but it's just like you're slight, instead of like something peaking out so much, how a drum pattern will look, right? You're slightly just, yeah, like I said, squashing something down and bringing everything back up, right? Or not even squashing anything down at all, right? And bringing something up at the end. I'll talk about that in a second, right? But that's just how the attack and the release works, okay? And how compression works in general is because compression can work as making quieter things louder, and it also can turn shit down. So, but like, peaks, right? But before I should talk about compression, I should say there are things like transient shapers, all right? And there is a free one that I have used, and it's called, to download it, and I'm going to use it every time now, to be honest. Called Pink, so I might as well just put it on like the snare, because the snare was sounding kind of weak anyway. All right. And if we I forgot. I should probably turn the plugins on in the master for this to actually be louder. The reason why I hadn't turned off is because there's some slight noise happening, but I'm gonna just roll through it. But like, anyway, going back to the transient shaper, at least we're here, right? And this is free. This one's free. Oh my goodness, I have to go to where there's a snare happening. Here, let's see. This should be fine. See that? That's basically what we're... Hold on. Alright, there's not really a pause button, right? But it's just like if I were to change the preset. You know what? I'm not even going to change the preset, alright? I said something about peaks. This video is about the peaks, so we're going to talk about the peak specifically for the snare, right? For this... particularly, it just says transient, which is the beginning. All right. So if we turn the transient up to this snare, which we just initially saw, we're going to see that the beginning of it should be a little bit taller than the end now, more so than it was before. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, the thing about this snare is that there's no tail. I said something about that such a long time ago in this video. I actually don't know how long I was been talking for, but like, there's no tail, right? And I can decrease that by turning that down. So barely. The thing is, like, I don't think this is really working as like this isn't like really cutting the sound off. This is more so, even though it says decibels, I think this is more so like almost just the most slight volume change, to be honest. Yeah, shaping a transient, like some transient shapers are probably more like powerful and get in there. There was not much of a tail to begin with. So maybe if we just changed it with this real quick. In fact, I'm not gonna change it because it'll be crazy if I like. I guess we'll assign you to the instrument track side. Let's look at the transients. Looks a little bit different from the snare, right? Now, what if we turned it up? It's gonna be louder, I bet. Not really, but as we can see, the initial hit of it is louder. Turn the tail up. Check it out. Right, that's obnoxious. That's stupid. That's crazy. If we turned it down. Right. It doesn't even have that slight reverb that it did have without the transient shaper. Right, and if you can't hear it, then you need some earbuds in, to be honest, because it worked. You feel me? What I'm talking about is working. The thing is, right, is that maybe you like that clap sound, and it's just like that tail you don't want. It'll bleed into the next one. Obviously, you could just cut itself in the channel rack thing up there. I guess people don't even know what that means. You can just make it go cut itself right here, but still, right, in between where it's not playing, it still might have time to play, and it still might get in the way of another perk. Yeah, I'm saying Gremlin. I'm not funny, but anyway, it might get in the way of another sound, another perk. So it's just like, that's when you might want to shape the transient individually of certain sounds. Okay, especially for a kick, because some kicks might be so weak they don't really cut through the mix. All right. I don't have the kick on here, so I can't really show anything like that. But trust me, that's a problem. Like this right here, let's just... In fact, we might as well just look at the stuff. We might as well just make it... Wow, that sounds powerful, actually. Why do these sound better than they would? You know why? It's because everything's running through like the limiter and the clipper. That's why. Because these wouldn't sound that good without the effects happening to the master. I promise you. These sound like titty. But I guess I might start using them now. Some kicks are just weak though, for real. These don't sound weak though. But this one sounds obnoxious enough to run through the transient shaper for you to see what I'm talking about, these peaks and transients. And I was talking about that bleeding through with another sound. So what about the 808? I'd have to route these together in a different channel for you guys to see what I'm talking about. Something like this. Oh, we're using that one. It's not hard to see if you don't know, but like, check it out. That 808, you see how the transient, that tail is pretty long, by the way. There's nothing happening with this transient shaper. Transient is just long, in general. Uh, and as is the transient with the kick, right? If I were to put the kick on now, which is just a stupid sounding kick. Now the thing about this is that technically this wouldn't be a bad rhythm, right? For a kick, well, you don't know, right? For like a kick in 808, only because from a low end perspective, it might add a different groove. I'm about to change it real quick, see if I like it low key. Right, honestly, if it was a different kick, it'd actually be kind of nice. But this kick is a little weak, right? So it's just like, how can we maybe add some, well, not this ugly ass kick. Well, maybe we can do something with the ugly kick. Let's add the transient shaper to it. Let's cut the tail down. Now the thing is that it is cutting it down. It's just not enough. It's because the sample itself just has too much of that. It's like it's part of it, the kick itself, so much that you really can't cut it off. Right, with this plugin at least. So that's when you'd have to go back to like the source and change something. Right, you know what I'm saying? And we're using that shit in the first place, so it's alright, we're good. Oh my goodness. I'd say, ooh, you'll keep yourself safe. I'm telling you, keep yourself safe. I don't think there's any reason to just randomly raise the tail of a kick. You could probably just find a new one. Transient, like if the transient was down, it'd just be. You know what I'm saying? It's just not the same. Alright, so it's just like, you know, before you do anything crazy to like a kick or 808, you know, you can shake the transient, and I haven't put a transient on the 808, but it's like the same concept. So there's that. I'd also put a transient shaper on a whole percussion bus, like something like this right here. I guess I don't have a snare playing. Alright, like I could put a transient shaper at the end of this. It does depend where you put it, to be honest, because if you do add other plugins after it, it'll add different processing, which like you might have to add another transient shaper. So it's just like, alright, maybe if I want to make it more, and there's plugin. I mean, there are presets for this. Let's see, crisp and crunchy, which was actually what I was about to do. Just turn the transients up and turn the tail down. Now everything should sound like a little bit more tight, maybe, hopefully, right? And it does, right? Some of these percussions that had some tail to them, gone almost. And I did try to find some or use some that didn't have much to it to begin with. I'm curious what it sounds like with the rest of the beat. maybe too much, right? Uh, the transients is the body of the sounds, and if you do get rid of it, the body is a pretty important part of life. So is the head, but you're gonna lose a lot of life if you cut the tail down too much. So it's just like that's kind of like the initial thing I would do if I want to try to control some peaks or something like that. Some transients, if I want to do something with drums, I wouldn't do a transient shaper with melodies or anything like that. So there's that. But yeah, and honestly, after that, to then actually get into like peak compression and stuff like that, well, there you go, compressing things. Because I didn't say it was peak compression with the transient shaper, right? But technically, you see when I turn the kick down and you could barely hear the kick, well, we compressed the transient, all right? But I'd imagine a compressor works a little bit differently. So, and different compressors work differently too, because there's manuals and stuff like that. So it's just like, I'm just gonna like look at one right here. I'm not gonna start fiddling with it. I did add a compressor to this. That's what I used for the peak control, which doesn't make any sense because the attack is slow as heck, which is fine. Right? Because a fast attack would actually turn the initial transients down. All right. By the way, slow attack keeps the transients. All right. But the thing is that a fast release doesn't really. I'm not the best person talking about it. All I'm saying is that look into it. You know what I'm saying? Compression would be like the second thing that I would look into to control the peaks and stuff like that. Maybe on individual things, right? But I personally put it on like the groups of things to glue. Remember I said to glue, right? So the reason why I have a compressor on here is to glue all of these together. What it would do is bring the transients or something down, but it's not really bringing anything down. Bring everything else up, blah blah blah. Look it up. I could be doing something wrong here. Boom skis, huh? You know what I'm saying? Right? There is parallel compression, which you've seen in this right here, which is called New York compression, which it's probably hard to see, but the tail of that snare had a little bit more body to it. It does introduce technically another signal that's heavily compressed, would be the term for it. Maybe transient shaping is a form of compression. And introduce it with a dry signal. That's what parallel compression is. It's supposed to give it more body and good stuff to it. And this is just something that I wish I knew about it, right? So it's just like, just take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I just wish I knew about being able to control the peaks and the tail of certain sounds more in order to get a more clean mix, right? But the thing is that going back to this right here, there's like clipping and shit, right? And that's like kind of the hard thing, and I still need to learn that, but hey, it's crazy. Now, I'm pretty sure this 808 is a little bit too loud right now. It might not be, but like the LUFS or is lower. It's louder technically than what it was, I think, before I did all of that transient shaping. I don't think I turned it off, right? I turned that off. I also could just be delusional, because like this could just be how I left it for real. Man, there's not a pause button for this. But you see those peaks right there? You saw those peaks? Maybe I'll just turn the music down. You see these peaks right here? Right? So this is free for 30 days, but it costs money. I turned the ceiling down. Right? Now you have to understand, like, this screen doesn't move. So like you have to understand, when you turn the ceiling down, everything is moving. It's when you turn the ceiling down, just imagine the screen zooming in. Okay, so this is the result of me turning the ceiling down. You know, see, now I'm getting all these. It's squaring out, plateauing at the top. That's basically clipping. You know what I'm saying? You know, I just wish I knew more about this at first. It's because it's just like it'll allow me to understand how I can turn my music up louder, right? And then pinpoint what could be wrong with it in the mix. And a lot of the time, it most likely would be the low end. All right, so it's just like I wish I knew how to control more of that low end, and all I could do was say some tips. One thing I would say is that this 808 has a lot of sub in it, so during this whole process, by the way, it does seem that my loudness did get a little bit louder. And it's these small changes that it does seem to actually make the change that I did. Even though you don't know what changes I did, I'm just yapping here, probably not making any sense. It's just like, it does seem, because like on average it was 12. Now it's looking like it's like, I just see 9 down there. You know, longer than I, now it's 69. That's actually, you know what? It might be time to just wrap it up. Never mind. Anyway. Like, but like, that's what I'm saying. You feel me? So it's just like, now thing about it is that, oh yeah, so this 808 has a lot of sub. This 808 in particular, all right? That's kind of the problem, is because it's just like, if you do turn this up without trying to actually control this, right, or mix everything around this 808 in particular, if this 808 is too loud, you won't hear the melody. I have a beat like that. It's insanely trash, even though the melody is really good. This 808, because I use the same 808 for everything, it just blocks out everything. So now I'm understanding I shouldn't, and I've been known I shouldn't use the 808, the same 808 for every beat, but it's like, why? It's because of like quite possibly the transient. It could be because there's too much tail to it, right? If too much low end that I keep boosting through, you know, just mixing and stuff like that, wanting things to be loud, that it's just like, the only way to fix that is to not use an 808 that has that much sub, okay? So it's just like, you know, if I were to like play this 808 right here, let's see, let's find, open up a, I don't think the equalizer helps, right? But if I were to get an 808 that has less sub and more distortion, we're just gonna like play with anyone. Let's see. There's less sub, right? Right there is actually where the sub would be, but I kind of cut it off right there just because there is lower frequencies. With distortion, it introduces more harmonics to make the perceived loudness. So this doesn't really probably sound that great in the rest of the beat. I don't like how it sounds. Quite actually, I just want you guys to understand is that like this is supposed to be like negative 12 lufs. By the way, I've actually gotten a little louder since I've started like talking and working on the things that I was talking about. And I know I've made it sound like confusing, but I was just talking about the peaks. Just understand that and how I would control them. Right? It doesn't mean the mix sounds good or anything like that at all. It doesn't mean there's not distortion or anything. Because there is. Trust me, there is. And it's like, that's when you kind of go back into here. And I don't know if I blew anyone's like earbuds out. Sorry. It shouldn't have. Get like a gain plug. I guess Fruity Balance. Rip the lefts, rip the loudness. But I made all these changes just to run another 808. I don't know why. But I got rid of the sub, added a sub 808, added more distortion, more distorted 808, right? You can still hear it, right? Maybe more easily, quite possibly for people that aren't wearing earbuds. And I'm pretending that there's people actually watching this video, by the way. But I'm just saying, like, it's just like, there you go. You know, it makes it cut through. Makes it cut through easier. I don't know. Right? Honestly, with a better computer, you could like add clipping and distortion. I'm guessing, honestly, on anything to control things at a micro level, or you could just have a better sample, right? But I've been talking for like forever. I probably don't even know what I'm talking about, to be honest. You know what I'm saying?